Listen closely, my friend. There is a quiet kind of person in this world that almost feels impossible to understand. They can be disrespected, and somehow they do not collapse. They can be pressured, and somehow they do not panic. They can lose something, be ignored, be criticized, be misunderstood, and still remain strangely steady. And when I first started paying attention to people like that, I realized something uncomfortable. Their life was not easier. Their mind was simply more trained. That thought stayed with me because it forced me to look at my own life honestly. How many times have we let one message ruin our entire mood? How many times have we carried one insult for the rest of the day? How many times have we checked our phone, waited for a reply, imagined the worst, and called it intuition when it was really fear? We tell ourselves the problem is stress. We say the problem is overthinking. We say the problem is people, pressure, bad timing, disrespect, silence, rejection, or life being unfair. But what if that is not the deepest problem? What if the real problem is that the mind has never been trained to stay still when the world becomes loud? Welcome to Stoic Chisel. On this channel, we do not run from uncomfortable truths. We study them, we sharpen ourselves against them, and we learn how to become calmer, clearer, and harder to control from the inside out. And if this kind of message speaks to you, subscribe to the channel. Your support gives me more motivation to keep building videos that help us train the mind, control our emotions, and become stronger in a world that constantly tries to shake us. Because here is the truth most people avoid. If one text can destroy your peace, something outside you is holding power over you. If one rude person can change your character, they are leading your mind. If one bad day can make you abandon your discipline, then your foundation is not yet solid. That is not an insult. That is a warning. And it is also an invitation, because an untrained mind can be trained. A reactive mind can become calm. A person who used to be controlled by emotions can learn to pause, observe, and choose. This is not about becoming cold. It is not about pretending nothing hurts. It is about becoming so aware of your inner world that life can hit the surface, but it cannot easily reach the center. The Stoics understood this deeply. Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus, and others were not teaching people how to escape pain. They were teaching people how not to become owned by pain. And that is what we are going to explore together. Because pressure will come, disrespect will come, certainty will come, people will disappoint you, plans will break, your mind will create stories that feel real. But the question is not whether chaos will appear. The question is this: when chaos arrives, will it control you, or will you finally learn to control yourself? And if chaos will always find a way to arrive, then the first real skill is learning what to do in the tiny moment before it takes control of you. There is a space most people never notice. It is small, almost invisible. It appears right after something happens, but right before you react. Someone says something sharp, a message feels cold, a plan falls apart, a memory comes back. Your chest tightens. Your mind starts speaking. And right there, in that brief space, your future self is waiting to see who you will choose to become. I used to think emotional control meant staying calm after the storm had already taken over. But now I see it differently. Real control begins before the storm becomes your identity. It begins in the pause. That pause may last only 3 seconds. But in those 3 seconds, you can stop yourself from saying the sentence that ruins trust. You can stop yourself from sending the message that exposes your insecurity. You can stop yourself from turning one painful moment into an entire day of regret. Most people do not lose control because they are terrible people They lose control because they have never trained themselves to pause. They feel anger, and they obey it. They feel fear, and they believe it. They feel rejection, and they become desperate to prove their worth. That is how the outside world enters the mind and starts giving orders. Epictetus taught that it is not simply what happens to us that disturbs us, but the way we judge what happens. And when I first understood, it felt almost uncomfortable, because it meant I could no longer blame every emotional wound on the event itself. Sometimes the event was small, but the story I attached to it was enormous. A person does not reply. That is the event. But the mind says, they are ignoring me. Then it says, they do not respect me. Then it says, I must not matter. And suddenly, a silent phone has become a weapon against your peace. But look at it closely. The phone did not create the entire pain. The interpretation did. This is where the ego quietly enters. The ego does not like neutral events. It wants everything to mean something about you. If someone is distant, the ego says, this is about my value. If someone disagrees, the ego says, this is an attack. If someone succeeds faster, the ego says, this proves I am behind. And once the ego touches the situation, reality becomes distorted. This is why the Stoic mind tries to separate two things: what happened, and what I am telling myself about what happened. Those are not the same. A trained mind does not deny pain. It does not pretend disrespect feels good. It does not act like disappointment is easy. But it refuses to add extra suffering by creating a story too quickly. Think of a mirror standing in the middle of a forest. A storm passes before it. A wounded animal passes before it. A branch falls in front of it. The mirror reflects all of it, but does not become any of it. That is the kind of mind I am trying to understand more deeply. A mind that can see the event without instantly drowning in the meaning. Because most of us are not mirrors yet. We are more like muddy water. One word touches us, and our clarity disappears. One look feels wrong, and we start imagining hidden motives. One uncomfortable emotion rises, and suddenly we cannot see ourselves clearly anymore. So the practice is simple, but it must be repeated. When you feel triggered, pause. Not to look weak, not to surrender, not to let people disrespect you. Pause so you can respond from strength instead of injury. Ask yourself, what actually happened? Then ask, what story is my mind adding? Then ask, if I respond right now, will I be acting from wisdom or from a wounded ego? That question can save you. Because not every feeling deserves immediate action. Not every insult deserves your voice. Not every silence deserves your anxiety. Not every uncomfortable moment deserves the power to change who you are. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself that he had power over his mind, not over outside events. And that is the hard truth we keep returning to. You may not control the comment. You may not control the reply. You may not control the delay, the misunderstanding, the rejection, or the way people choose to see you. But you can control the meaning you give it. You can control the breath before the answer. You can control the space before the reaction. You can control whether you become the storm or simply watch it pass. And the more you practice this, the less predictable you become to chaos. People may still provoke you. Life may still test you. Your emotions may still rise, but something deeper inside you begins to stay still. Like the ocean beneath the waves, on the surface, everything moves. But below, there is silence, and when you learn to live from that deeper place, the world can still touch the surface of your life. But it cannot so easily take command of your soul. And once you begin to live from that deeper place, you start noticing something else. Your peace does not only depend on how you react, It also depends on what you allow to enter your mind every day. I used to think exhaustion came only from working too much. But the more I watched myself, the more I realized that some of the heaviest tiredness does not come from work. It comes from leakage, mental leakage, emotional leakage, spiritual leakage. You can wake up with a clear mind, a decent mood, and a real intention to stay disciplined. Then, one pointless argument takes a piece of you. One negative conversation drains another piece. 1 hour of scrolling steals your focus. One comparison makes your own life feel smaller. One person's bad attitude follows you long after they have left the room. And by the end of the day, you wonder why you feel empty. But you were not empty for no reason. You were leaking energy through doors you never closed. This is why protecting your energy is not a soft idea. It is not about avoiding life. It is about refusing to give your inner strength to everything that asks for it. Not every conversation deserves access to your peace. Not every opinion deserves space in your mind. Not every conflict deserves your reaction. Not every distraction deserves your attention. Attention is not small. Attention is the direction of your life. Whatever you keep looking at, listening to, replaying, checking, and feeding will slowly shape the atmosphere inside you. If you feed your mind outrage, you become restless. If you feed your mind comparison, you become insecure. If you feed your mind gossip, resentment, and noise, you should not be surprised when your thoughts feel polluted. A clean river does not become dirty in one dramatic moment. It becomes dirty when poison enters little by little. A little negativity here, a little distraction there, a little resentment, a little envy, a little useless argument, and slowly the water that used to be clear becomes heavy. That is what happens to an unguarded mind. So before you engage, ask yourself one question. Is this worth my energy? Not, can I win this argument? Not, can I prove them wrong? Not, can I make them understand me? Ask, is this worth the cost of my peace? Because sometimes winning the argument still means losing yourself for the rest of the day, and that is not victory. That is poor management of your own soul. But there is another quiet thief of peace that most people do not notice until it has already hurt them. Expectation. Expectation looks innocent at first. You help someone, and you expect appreciation. You work hard, and you expect fast results. You treat people well, and you expect them to treat you with the same care. You plan your day, and you expect life to follow the plan. Then reality arrives differently. They do not thank you. The result takes longer. The person disappoints you. The plan breaks. And suddenly your peace collapses, not only because of what happened, but because what happened violated the picture you were holding in your mind. I have had to learn this the uncomfortable way. Sometimes disappointment is not proof that life is against you. Sometimes disappointment is the sound of an expectation breaking. Marcus Aurelius prepared himself each morning for difficult people, delays, selfishness, misunderstanding, and disorder, not because he hated the world, but because he understood the world. He knew peace cannot depend on everything going smoothly. That kind of peace is too fragile. Real peace must be able to stand even when people are imperfect, when plans change, when gratitude does not come, when effort does not immediately become reward. Think of a river moving through rocks. The river does not stop and complain because the path is not straight. It bends. It adjusts. It continues. That is not weakness. That is wisdom in motion. So lower your demand that reality must obey your script. Help, but do not attach your peace to being praised. Work, but do not attach your worth to instant results. Care, but do not expect every person to know how to care for you perfectly. Plan but leave space for uncertainty. The world will not always move according to your expectation, but you can still move according to your character. And when you protect your energy while releasing your expectations, you become lighter. You stop wasting your strength on noise. You stop letting disappointment become identity. You stop demanding that life be easy before you decide to be steady. That is where calm becomes more than a mood. It becomes a discipline. And when calm becomes more than a mood, when it becomes a discipline, you begin to understand that even pain can be trained to serve something higher inside you, because pain will still come. No matter how much you protect your energy, no matter how carefully you manage your expectations, there will still be moments that hit you in a place you were trying to keep safe. Someone will disappoint you. Someone will misunderstand you. Someone will leave you waiting. Someone will speak to you in a way that makes your blood heat up, and in that moment, the old instinct returns. You want to react. You want to defend yourself. You want to escape the feeling as fast as possible. I understand that instinct. I think all of us do. But the more I study emotional control, the more I realize that the goal is not to erase anger, pain, or frustration. The goal is to stop handing them the steering wheel. A negative emotion is not always your enemy. Sometimes it is raw energy with no direction yet. Anger can destroy your peace, but it can also reveal where your standards have been crossed. Frustration can make you bitter, but it can also show you where growth is demanding more discipline. Pain can close your heart, but it can also wake up a deeper honesty about what needs to change. The difference is not the emotion. The difference is what you do with it. Think about a volcano. Inside it, there is pressure, heat, and force. If it erupts without control, it burns everything around it. But over time, that same volcanic force can create fertile ground where new life grows. That image stays with me, because many people are not weak because they feel too much. They are weakened because they never learned how to direct what they feel. So the next time anger rises, do not rush to explode, and do not pretend you are above it. Pause long enough to ask, how can I use this without letting it use me? Can this anger become a workout? Can this frustration become focus? Can this disappointment become maturity? Can this pain become a reason to rebuild yourself with more dignity? That is self-mastery, not revenge. Not emotional shutdown. Not proving your worth to someone who hurt you, but taking the energy that could have ruined your day and turning it into a disciplined step forward. The Stoics understood this with a kind of brutal clarity. The obstacle is not always a wall. Sometimes it is training equipment. The pressure you hate may be the pressure shaping you. Diamond does not form in comfort. It forms under weight, heat, and time. And maybe some parts of you are being formed the same way. But there is another place where the mind wastes enormous power. Overthinking. And I say this carefully, because overthinking often disguises itself as preparation. You tell yourself you are just being careful. You are just thinking ahead. You are just trying to understand what might happen. But at some point, thinking stops helping you and starts haunting you. You replay conversations that are already finished. You imagine rejection before it arrives. You create arguments in your head with people who are not even in the room. You suffer from futures that have not happened. And the body does not always know the difference. Your chest tightens. Your breathing changes. Your focus disappears. Your peace leaves the present and enters a world made of fear. That is why one question is so powerful. Is this happening right now? Not in your imagination. Not in tomorrow's possible disaster. Not in the version of the story your fear is directing. right now? If the answer is no, then return. Return to your breath. Return to your hands. Return to the room. Return to the next small action in front of you. A deer in the wild runs when danger is real, but when the danger passes, it returns to the grass. It does not spend the rest of the day imagining the predator coming back. Humans do that. We keep the threat alive long after the moment has passed. So train yourself to come back, again and again. The present moment is not always perfect, but it is usually more manageable than the nightmare your mind is building. And while you are learning to return, you must also examine another chain that keeps many people emotionally dependent: approval. How much of your life is truly guided by your values, and how much of it is quietly shaped by the hope that someone will clap, notice, praise, reply, approve, or finally understand? I ask this because I have seen how easily people lose themselves trying to be seen. They do good things, but feel empty if nobody praises them. They work hard, but feel invisible if nobody recognizes it. They speak, post, achieve, improve, and still feel restless because their worth is waiting outside of them. That is a painful way to live. Because when your value depends on approval, other people become the owners of your emotional state. A compliment lifts you. A criticism breaks you. Silence makes you question yourself. You become like a candle in the wind. But the sun does not ask permission to shine. It does not check whether people appreciate its light. It rises because that is its nature. That is the kind of inner standard we are trying to build. Ask yourself, did I act according to my values? If yes, let that be enough, not because praise is bad, but because praise is too unstable to become the foundation of your identity. And finally, learn to sit with yourself. No phone, no noise, no quick escape, just 10 minutes of silence. At first, it may feel uncomfortable because silence reveals what distraction hides. But that is exactly why it matters. A disturbed lake cannot reflect the sky clearly. Only still water can. Your mind is the same. Sit, breathe, observe, write down what keeps returning. Do not fight every thought. Do not judge every emotion. Jotis. Because the person who can sit with their own mind without running from it becomes far harder to control in the outside world. Pain becomes fuel. Overthinking becomes presence. Approval becomes self-respect. Silence becomes strength. And slowly, you begin to understand something powerful. You were never meant to escape your inner world. You were meant to train it. And if we were meant to train the inner world, then the final practice is learning to step back far enough to see what truly deserves our peace. Think about the thing that has been disturbing you lately. The message you keep replaying, the mistake you keep carrying, the small embarrassment that still visits your mind when everything gets quiet, the person who misunderstood you, the moment that made you feel smaller than you really are. Now ask yourself honestly, will this matter 1 year from now? Will it matter 5 years from now? Will it matter when you look back near the end of your life and ask what was truly worth your energy? Most of the time, the answer is no. But in the moment, the mind makes it feel enormous. It takes one small problem and brings it so close to your face that it blocks the entire sky. That is what pain does when perspective is too narrow. It magnifies, it exaggerates, it convinces you that this moment is everything. But it is not everything. It is one passing scene inside a much larger life. Marcus Aurelius practiced looking at life from above. Not because he wanted to escape reality, but because he wanted to see reality more clearly. Imagine your city from the ground. Everything feels loud, urgent, crowded, and personal. Now imagine that same city from the sky. The streets become thin lines. The buildings shrink. The noise disappears. People become small moving figures, each one carrying their own invisible worries. Nothing changed. Only your perspective changed. And sometimes, that is all your peace needs. Not a perfect solution, not an apology, not immediate control, just distance, just space, just the wisdom to say, this is not as large as my emotions are making it. That is why you must learn to zoom out. When something bothers you, ask, what truly matters here? Ask, what is worth my character? Ask, what is worth my peace? Because if you treat every small disturbance like a life-defining crisis, you will spend your entire life exhausted by things that were never meant to carry that much power. But there is one more shift, and to me, this is the deepest one. You are not every thought that appears in your mind. You are not every emotion that rises in your body. You are the one who notices them. That sounds simple, but if you truly sit with it, it changes the way you relate to your entire inner life. Most people say, I am angry, but try saying, anger is here. Most people say, I am anxious. I am anxious, but try saying, anxiety is rising. Most people say, I am broken. But try saying, pain is moving through me right now. Do you feel the difference? One sentence traps you inside the emotion. The other gives you room to breathe. And in that room, choice becomes possible. Imagine sitting beside a road watching cars pass. Some are loud. Some are fast. Some are heavy. Some pull your attention. But you do not have to get into every car. Thoughts are like that. Emotions are like that. They pass through the road of awareness. But most people jump into every passing car and let it drive them anywhere. A trained mind learns to watch first. It does not deny the feeling. It does not shame the feeling. It simply refuses to become the feeling without permission. This is what it means to become the observer, not the reactor. The sky does not become the storm. It holds the storm, watches it pass, and remains sky. Your awareness can learn to do the same. And when you understand this, the whole journey begins to connect. The pause before reaction. The separation between event and interpretation. The protection of your energy. The release of expectations. The transformation of pain into discipline. The return to the present. The freedom from approval. The courage to sit in silence. The ability to zoom out. The power to observe your own mind. None of these are separate lessons. They are pieces of one deeper transformation. They are training for the same inner freedom. Because the real goal is not to become a person who never feels anything. That would not be strength. That would be emptiness. The goal is to become a person who can feel deeply without being ruled blindly. A person who can be hurt without becoming hateful. A person who can be disappointed without collapsing. A person who can be misunderstood without losing their center. A person who can face pressure and still choose character. And I think that is what many of us are really searching for. Not a perfect life, not a life without pain, but a mind strong enough to meet life without constantly abandoning itself. So if there is one thing I want you to carry from this, it is this. Your peace is not protected by controlling the world. Your peace is protected by training the part of you that meets the world. That training begins in ordinary moments, when someone speaks sharply and you pause. When your mind creates a painful story and you question it. When anger rises and you direct it toward growth instead of damage. When anxiety pulls you into tomorrow and you return to this breath. When nobody praises you and you still keep your standard. When silence feels uncomfortable and you stay long enough to listen, this is how a person changes. Not in one dramatic breakthrough, but in quiet decisions repeated until the mind learns a new way to live. The deepest lesson is this: you do not have to obey every emotion just because it is loud. You do not have to believe every thought just because it feels convincing. You do not have to carry every small problem as if it defines your entire life. You can step back. You can observe. You can choose. That is where strength begins, and the way to apply it today is simple. Before the day ends, choose one moment where you normally react. Maybe it is when someone does not reply. Maybe it is when someone criticizes you. Maybe it is when your mind starts overthinking. Maybe it is when you feel the urge to check for approval. In that moment, do not try to become perfect. Just create space. Take one breath. Name what is happening. Say anger is here, or fear is here, or the mind is creating a story. Then ask yourself, what response would protect my peace and my character at the same time? That one question can change the direction of your life. Because every time you choose awareness over impulse, you are carving a stronger version of yourself. And slowly, you become the kind of person chaos can visit, but not command. Before you go, I want to ask you one simple question. What is one small thing you will stop letting control your peace? Please comment your answer below so everyone can learn from each other's perspective. And if this message gave you clarity, subscribe to Stoic Chisel to support the channel and give me more motivation to keep creating deeper, stronger,